Korea was split into North and South Korea when Japan was forced to surrender all of its colonies to the Soviets and the United States after losing World War II. But how did the Japanese conquer Korea in the first place? And why is there such a vast divide between North and South Korea today? The story begins with the First Sino-Japanese War, which was fought between Japanese and Chinese forces for influence over Korea from 1894 to 1895. In 1870, Korea was China's most substantial client state, abundant in coal and iron, and located opposite to the Japanese islands. This proximity and resource richness caught Japan's interest. In 1875, Japan adopted revolutionary Western technology and forced Korea to abandon its foreign relations with China. Japan helped to modernize Korea, which led to certain pro-Japanese reformers trying to overthrow the Korean government. A decade later, while Japan was busy expanding its kingdom and modernizing its programs, China was busy plotting revenge. War was declared on August 1, 1894, but by March of 1895, Japanese troops had overthrown the Chinese forces. China had finally learned its lesson and recognized Korea as being independent of its assistance by signing the Treaty of Shimonoseki. Japan continued expanding, but the Russian Empire boasted one of the largest territorial powers in the world. Despite this, every winter, Russia was forced to close its shipping operations from Vladivostok and was therefore in search of another warm water port. Russia managed to lease Port Arthur in the Liaodong Peninsula from China and clearly saw potential in the Korean peninsula. The Japanese were concerned by Russia's interest and proposed a deal to the Russian Empire, ceding them control over Manchuria instead of Korea. However, the Russians declined this offer. On February 8, 1904, the Japanese army attacked the Russian Navy at Port Arthur. The now legendary Siege of Port Arthur was the longest and most violent attack of the Russo-Japanese War. Japan eventually won the war, but it stirred up turmoil in many other countries, partially sparking and fanning the flames that would ruin empires in World War I and World War II. After World War II, Japan was forced to give up all of its colonies, including Korea, to the victorious Allied countries. However, Korea's freedom did not last long. The Soviet Union invaded Korea the very same day the Japanese left. The Soviets occupied the north, and the United States occupied the south, with the regions separated by the 38th parallel. In 1948, two radically different states were created: the Democratic People's Republic of Korea in the north and the Republic of Korea in the south. But peace could not be maintained for long. On June 25, 1950, North Korea invaded the south in an attempt to spread communism. The UN and US forces came to the aid of South Korea, pushing the invading forces back across the border. In October of 1950, those forces advanced north towards total victory, but were stopped by Chinese troops coming to their neighbors' aid. The fighting finally came to an end on July 27, 1953, when an agreement to end hostilities was signed. However, the damage had already been done. More than 2 million people had been killed, and both countries began to evolve in very different directions. Today, these two regions of the same peninsula might as well be two different countries.